Hello! Here's an introduction to epidemiology and the epidemiological triangle. I thought that this short video would help you keep track of some of the terms that you're going to need to use in this course, and it's also going to help you see the path that we're going to take throughout biology this term, and also things that you'll need to know for your unit project. So what is epidemiology? Let's begin by defining that term for ourselves. Epidemiology is simply the study of patterns, causes, and effects of health and disease conditions. So it's scientists going out and studying what kinds of things they can see about how disease is occurring, what the patterns are, what the causes are, how it's affecting people. And I really like the etymology of the word epidemiology, which is from Greek, meaning the study of what is upon the people. So epidemiology just means you're studying what's affecting all of the people. And in our case, we're really going to focus in on disease. So just to remind you of the definition that we've talked about in class, a disease is going to be any condition that impairs the normal functioning of the body. And we're specifically going to focus in our class on infectious diseases. And infectious diseases are going to be different than the general term disease, because infectious diseases are just those diseases that are caused by the presence and growth of a biological agent. So we will not include things like cancer or heart disease in our definition of disease, because we're only talking about infectious diseases, things that can be caused by an agent that grows in the body. Just to give you another term that you might see coming up in class is that epidemiologists are often concerned with epidemics. And an epidemic is when you see more cases of a disease than you'd expect in an area. So maybe you expect one case of the measles in a large area, but when you get 100, 200, 300 cases of measles in a small area, you would call that an epidemic, because you wouldn't be expecting that high of a number of disease to be occurring. So how do we study epidemics? Well, scientists have developed a model that we're going to use in this class called an epidemiological triangle. And you can see the epidemiological triangle is fairly simple. It has 3 corners or vertices, and at each corner we have a different thing. We have the host at the top, we have an agent on the side, and we have the environment on the other side. So our epidemiological triangle, or some people call it an epidemiological triad, is comprised of host, agent, and environment. So let's drill down a little bit more and see what these terms actually mean. So the host is going to be just the organism that harbors the disease. So, for example, if you have a cold, you are the host of that cold virus. When we think about the host, we're going to think about who has the disease. It doesn't have to be a human, it could be an organism, it could be an animal, it could be a plant. It doesn't have to actually show symptoms of the disease. The disease just has to have to be able to live within that organism. So that's our host. We will spend some time talking about the host later in the course. Once we move beyond the host, we can also think about the agent. The agent is the thing we're going to learn about first, and the agent is the organism or microbe that causes the disease. So this is the what when we think about disease. Microbe is going to be a term that we're going to define a little further in class, but it's going to mean some sort of small biological organism that can cause a disease. Examples of microbes that you might have heard of are bacteria, viruses, fungi, protozoa, and we're also going to learn about small worms that can cause disease, known as helminths. So once we've learned about the host, who gets the disease, and the agent, what caused the disease, the last piece of our triad is going to be the environment. So the external factors that cause or allow the disease to be transmitted. And this is going to be the where part of the epidemiological triangle. So where does this occur? Where does the host interact with the agent? Where does the agent find the host? These sorts of different interactions. And so that's going to be our triad. We're going to focus on each one of these areas for a different part of our class. We're going to spend some time talking about the agent, some time talking about the host, and finally some time talking about the environment, so that we can tie all of these ideas together into one big concept of how infectious diseases work. Now, why did we develop this model of an epidemiological triangle? Well, the triangle actually helps us with the goal of every epidemiologist, which is to end an epidemic. So if we want to end an epidemic, we need to break one side of this triangle. So if you think about that triangle, if we can prevent the host and agent from interacting, then we'll never see any disease in the host. If we prevent the host from getting into the environment where the agent lives, then the host will never have the opportunity to develop the disease. And likewise, if we can keep the agent out of the environment that the host lives in, then the agent will never have an opportunity to get into the host. So any of the three sides of this triad can be broken, and disrupting the connections between the environment, the host, and the agent will always be able to stop continued transmission of the disease, so long as you have completely disrupted that connection in each direction. And that's something we'll talk about later in this class. We'll talk about in more detail. You will study a disease on your own and try to break these sides of the triangle for your own unique disease that you're going to do some research on. So that, in a nutshell, is an introduction to epidemiology and the epidemiological triangle. Hopefully that model will help you as you develop some ideas about disease in this class and as you continue to think about infectious disease and how we can prevent and treat them.